What's up? Welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of Shazam: Fury of the Gods, the Shazam sequel from DC, the latest superhero film. I'll talk about the movie itself, its very poor box office performance, and what that may mean. And yeah, let's get into it. So I like Shazam, the first one, back in 2019. Kind of just a fun, lighthearted romp, not super connected to the DCEU canon. Was a decent, fun time. I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty amusing. Now I get the sequel, Shazam: Fury of the Gods, and it has not done well critically and has not performed at all commercially, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Ultimately, I think Shazam 2 as a film is less successful than the first one, kind of obviously, and there's a few, I think, pretty key reasons why that is. I think Shazam 1, the reason why it was so charming was, you had Zachary Levi as, adult Shazam, his kind of adult with kid relationship with Jack Dylan Grazer's character was really fun and amusing. Adult and kid story, kind of like the big premise that was just nice to be with. And um, when you don't have Levi, you have young Asher Angel and then playing off Jack Dylan Grazer, and like that kind of dynamic I think worked pretty well. The issue now with Shazam 2 is, well, Jack Dylan Grazer and Asher Angel are teenagers now, or their characters are. They're even older, obviously, in real life. And it's just not quite the same dynamic when they're teens as when they're kids. It's just kind of a different vibe. Also, like, there's a lot less Asher Angel in general in this film, in the sequel, which I think kind of like takes you out of the kind of grounding stuff that was kind of part of Shazam, in terms of like the found family, chosen family themes that I think actually were pretty effective. And also, at the end of Shazam, the rest of the family, the Foster family, they all get powers too and kind of become their own versions of Shazam. That is kind of fun in the second movie, but they don't really have a lot to do the rest of the family. And it almost kind of like takes away from like Shazam, like Prime, as being like a big deal. He just kind of gets more screen time. So I don't know. It was kind of a different like energy shift for me. I didn't really love it. The antagonist this time around is the Daughters of Atlas, which is, it's connected well enough in the first movie. And of course, these new villains are Helen Mirren, Lucy Liu, and Rachel Zegler. And I think they're okay as villains. They're totally fine. Like they're pretty one note with motivations, and the best stuff, of course, is given to Rachel Zegler, who's like the one good antagonist from the start. Um, and the CGI, I think, in general, is actually pretty serviceable. And the issue overall is like the second half of this movie really falls apart. And it's kind of like the classic failed superhero film third act, except it's more than the third act. It's like the second half of act two as well as all of the third act. CGI looks fine, but there's just a lot, I think, issues that like dramatically there's just not enough tension to what's going on. And in the process, it's like this bigger, like world saving set pieces and stuff, which kind of feels like at odds with like the appeal of Shazam 1 as a film and as a story. So it's just kind of like a mixed bag overall. I had a decent enough time with it more often than not, but like a great example of like just a kind of obvious issue is at the end here, like Act 3, when you have all these CGI like beasts being unleashed by the bad guys, right? We'll just keep it brief here. Um, all the other Shazam family members, they have to, fight off these beasts, and they're like riding unicorns and stuff, playing off some old jokes set up in the beginning of the movie. But like, basically, they don't do anything in the movie. They don't do anything consequential. They're just kind of off to the side until the rest of the story is resolved, and it's just a huge waste of time. And like, I think if we had removed the classic CGI things fight normal people must save the day stuff that we know so well and was terrible in Black Adam, for example, we'd removed all of that. Maybe it was something else. It probably just would have been more fun to be with. Again, I don't have a good suggestion. I don't like to criticize in that manner, but like it was clear that the Shazam family members were doing absolutely nothing for the last 30 minutes of the movie, and that is kind of at odds with the whole way the movie is supposed to be in the beginning, where it's presenting this whole group and trying to change that dynamic in the movie. So I think that was just kind of a big issue. I mean, we can talk about the performance. Man, I mean, 30 million opening weekend. It's the lowest theater only release for a DC film since Constantine back in '05. And of course, with adjusting for inflation, that'd be even worse statistic. Um, yeah, I mean, Shazam 1 was like a modest hit due to being priced kind of modestly, and then performing solidly, you know? And Shazam 2 just I think it has a kind of interesting issue with why the marketing failed with this. Um, there's nothing engaging you as a DC fan or comic book movie fan to go see this movie because we know so clearly that this movie doesn't matter to the storytelling. And we know that serialized storytelling in franchises is so important. James Gunn and Peter Safran, we know that their DC Studios slate and refresh is underway. We're just playing out the string with the old DC EU stuff that was already in the can. So these post-credit scenes have literally negative meaning. They don't matter at all, and it's actually kind of funny to encounter post-credit scenes that everyone knows already have no bearing as they're watching them. It's kind of funny, but I just don't think anyone was super engaged enough to go seek this movie out, knowing it didn't really matter to long-term storytelling. And on top of that, the reviews not being that strong, the audience reception not being that strong for some of the reasons I outlined. When it's not that great of a film and you know that it doesn't really matter to long-term franchise storytelling, there's not a lot getting you out to the theater to go seek it out. So, will it perform pretty good on HBO Max in a few months? I'm sure it will. I'm sure people will be checking it out then, but it's clear that like this was not a must-see thing. And you're seeing that in the worldwide performance, you're seeing that in the China performance. People are just kind of uninterested. And it's kind of a tough break for DC, but it is what it is. You know, Rachel Zegler. Thankfully, this will not be one and done for her in the franchise game. I think she's a really good actor. She was tremendous in West Side Story, and for what she's given to do, I think she's pretty solid in Shazam 2. Some of the early stuff between her and Jack Dylan Grazer was actually really fun and really nice, and kind of reminiscent of some of the best stuff in the first Shazam movie. Zegler, though, thankfully, will be in the Hunger Games prequel coming out later this year, and of course in Disney's Snow White live action remake in 2024. So we'll be seeing plenty of Zegler on the big screen in the future. But yeah, I mean, there's really no reason to expect more Shazam in this iteration. It's pretty obvious. Black Adam failed. Um, Shazam 2 is failing as well. And yeah, if we ever see Shazam and Black Adam again, it'll be a reset, probably in 10 years. So uh, it is what it is. It's just I think it's just interesting to analyze about why this movie didn't perform. That's probably the most interesting thing about it. It's a decent time, but it's nothing really to write home about. Nothing super memorable. But let me know. Did you like Shazam 2 more than me? Uh, are you sad that we're not going to get a Shazam 3? And for more superhero reviews, more movie reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.